Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Tom Bowley, Chief Market Strategist at EarningsBeats.com, and this is a special episode of Trading Places Live. I want to take you behind the scenes a little bit, take a look at some of the things that we do at EarningsBeats, some of the research and educational materials that we provide for our members, and then I want to show you how we combine that with some of our favorite features at StockCharts. So I'm going to go through, give you a little background about myself, and then I'll go through our EarningsBeats website, just give you some of the high-level things that you can look for on our website. And then I want to go through and talk a little bit about the StockCharts.com features that are so important to us at EarningsBeats that we use in our research and educational platform. And they include ChartStyle Buttons, which I think is really important, ChartLists, that's where we store a lot of our research, and then scans. That's how we apply all the research that we do. We can use scans, the StockCharts scan engine, to help us find some great trading candidates. So that's what I want to concentrate on in this special episode of Trading Places Live. So before I get into that, let's start with the introduction. Just give you a little background information on who I am. Many of you probably already know, but I spent 20 years in public accounting, and I got to the point where I guess one of my favorite sayings is I never met a spreadsheet I didn't like. Always like to analyze. That's always been in my DNA. So when the market struggles, I try to analyze to find out what's making the market tick, what's making the market not tick, and looking for strength, relative strength, any kind of clues I can find about the market. I use a lot of my former days working in public accounting and some of the analysis that I learned back then, and I apply it to the stock market quite a bit. I was the head of the firm's accounting and auditing committee, so I've got a tremendous background on the fundamental side of equities. And so what I do at EarningsBeats is really take that information that I have on the fundamental side and I marry it with my passion for technical analysis. And so I think we have a really unique service, and that's kind of what I want to show you a little bit today. And at the same time, show you the importance and the significance that StockCharts plays, the role that it plays for us at EarningsBeats. So let's take a look at the website real quick at EarningsBeats. And down the left navigational panel, once you sign in as a member, you'll see all of this information. And where you're going to find most of our research and educational materials are going to be down here under the Stocks and ETFs service. So if you come on board as a trial member, you will have access to everything. And that'll be for a 30-day period. But every afternoon, I issue a daily market report. And I'll click on that just to kind of give you just a quick analysis. But I go through and do a quick executive market summary, give you a market outlook, some of the things that I'm looking at in the market. Then I'll give you a sector industry focus. Normally there's one area of the market I try to focus on each and every day. And then I go through our chart list and some of the strategies that I might consider in terms of trade setups. Some of this is, should be viewed as educational material. Some, use it as trading opportunities. Obviously, we're not registered investment advisors, so we always just encourage our members to make sure they're comfortable with the risk they're taking on any trades. But you can see, just a number of trade candidates here, some of the setups that I thought looked kind of interesting. And then we go through and list earnings reports, which companies will be reporting over the next couple of days, and then also highlight the key economic reports that came out. So we go through all that. I go all through all that and send that out sometime in the afternoon, usually between 2 and 3 p.m. Eastern time. Then we have a weekly portfolio report. I'm not going to go through all these reports, but essentially our portfolios are held 90 days. Each of our portfolios has 10 equal weighted stocks in there. And this report is really just to go over each of those portfolios and give you an update on how the stocks within the portfolios performed. Once a month, I come out with a monthly seasonality report. So I'll go back and take a look at the prior month, some of the suggestions that we had, This one was just sent out just a couple of days ago, but we go back and we take a look at the 20 stocks that we provide every month to our members that you should be at least aware of, that these are stocks that tend to do well during that particular calendar month. And then we go into looking ahead at the next month, and we provide 20. And then also go into the various sectors and industry groups, looking at what we call heat maps to tell you which areas of the market tend to be favored in that particular time of the year. Then we have a monthly short squeeze report. Of course, a lot of folks much more familiar with short squeezes now after everything that happened back in January with GameStop and so forth. But this was actually something that we were sending out to our members before the GameStop news went out. We sent 10 stocks off of our short squeeze chart list out at the end of December 31st. And you can see the performance of these stocks over the next 30 days. So this went out before all the furor over the short squeeze or over all the short squeezes that the market was experiencing. But there's GME, GameStop. This was on the list that we sent to our members back at the beginning of the year. And you can see during the course of January, GameStop went from 1884 to 325 at the end of the month and actually hit close to 500. But you can see the percentage gains just in 1 month for all the stocks that we had discussed. So this goes out monthly to our members as well. Then we go into ChartLists, have a number of chart lists that are listed. Trying to get through, I'll come back to that page. Let's see if we can get another page to come up here. No, should be able to get into it here in just a little bit. I'll go through the rest of these in just a couple minutes. We're going to be coming back to the chart list and scanning strategies and so forth in just a bit. Then we have a number of reports for ETFs. We also have a model ETF portfolio where we attempt to beat the S&P 500 with a maybe 7, 8. I think first quarter we had 8 ETFs. This quarter I think we have 7. But a lot of really good information that our members can go through and check out. But let's specifically move into some of the features at StockCharts that I think is really important for everyone to really get a feel for what we do at EarningsBeats. I think you need to know how we use StockCharts. And so StockCharts is a really important part of our platform. So I'm just going to pull up a stock. And let's take a look at Applied Materials has been a pretty good stock in the semiconductor space. So we'll pull this chart up and you can see it's been trending higher. Now, this particular chart, you can see has a PPO, price chart, volume, and then an RSI. Well, I like to look at relative strength. So I actually have created a button over here for relative charts. And if I just click on that, you'll see a little different setup now with Applied Materials. Now I've got the accumulation distribution on top, which is an area that something I really like to focus on. Then you've got the price chart. Then you've got the industry group. This is semiconductors and how semiconductors have performed. Then you've got Applied Materials relative to the semiconductors, Applied Materials relative to the S&P, and semiconductors relative to the S&P. And I'll go down here. You can come back and take a look at this later. But this is how I have it set up. This is dollar symbol, colon, dollar industry, dollar symbol, colon, dollar SPX, and then dollar industry, colon, dollar SPX. So those are the price relative. These are the parameters that are used in order to get this chart set up the way that this is. So you can come back and you can look at that if you'd like to set something up. And then the way you do this, if you haven't set up these buttons, if this is just the chart style that you want to use, you could come in and say, okay, I want to just add a style, and let's just say TP Live sample. All right, add new. So now down here on the bottom, TP Live sample. Now, if I wanted to do, let's see, here's a 10-minute 5-day chart. So let's say I hadn't already set up a button for this. All I do is come in here. Now I'm going to say TP Live sample 2. Add that. And so now down here at the bottom, I've got the TP Live sample 2, and there's my TP Live sample. So now I've got my sample 2, the 5-day, 10-minute chart. And if I want to just flip back over to that relative chart, there it is. So I don't have to go back down to the bottom and keep typing in all these different indicators and how I want the charts to be set up. Once I have it set up, then I can go in here and set up a style button, chart style button for each type of chart that I want. And if you want to move these buttons around, you can just click on the little caret there, and you can click and drag. So I usually do the 10-minute, then I do the hour, then I do the daily, then I grab this weekly, move it up here, weekly, monthly. Got a couple relative strength in here, but we'll just do that, move that to there. 10-year treasury yield, the way I look at that, and then my 2 samples that I put in here. Now, what I'm going to do, since I don't need these, is I'm just going to move these down here, because that was just showing you how to set them up. But now, when you go back, you'll see that those are now gone. So that's how you remove them. You just drag them back down. Anyway, I think that's a really important part, to be able to set up these chart styles. So that's point number 1. Now let's get into the chart lists. And this is really the engine of what makes us tick at EarningsBeats. So I'm going to go in and let's pull up our first chart list, which is a strong earnings chart list. So what I do is I go through and review thousands of earnings reports every quarter. And as I'm going through, if a company beats their top line or revenues, if they beat Wall Street estimates as to revenues, and also beats Wall Street estimates as to earnings per share, and is liquid, meaning that when I look at the volume, if I feel like the volume is heavy enough, and I usually want to see at least an average of about maybe 250,000 shares. So if it's averaging that over 50 to 90 days, something like that, then, and I usually just eyeball it. This one actually is a little bit close. But if it meets that liquidity test, then that's another feature that has, filter that has to go through. And then the last one is I just look at the chart. And so I see this stock is rising. This was with the earnings report that came out in December. It's rising. AD line looks pretty good. Recreational products, you can see, everything kind of moving up left to right on these relative charts. So this one looked good, so it was added to the strong earnings chart list. I go through this, and right now, the number of charts that are on here is always varying. But one way you can look to see how many charts you have in a chart list, you can have up to 500. In this one, I have 410, but I actually added another strong earnings chart list because there's 116 on that. So 116 and 410 is 526. You can't get more than 500 on one chart list. So as a result, I've had to create 2 earnings chart lists. Then I've got a strong future earnings chart list. So for companies that, for whatever reason, are not on the strong earnings chart list, I go through, and strong future earnings are created using scooters. So any company that is heavily or has been, on a relative basis doing very well, which you can tell from the scooter score, I go through and I look at all the scooters, and any stocks that have scooters over a certain level, I put onto the strong earnings chart or strong future earnings chart list. Okay. Now, some of these are also on strong earnings. So what I end up doing is I look to see which stocks are on both lists, and then I take them off of the strong future earnings. So the strong earnings and the strong future earnings will never have the same stock, because if there are any similarities, I take them out of strong earnings, or strong future earnings, I should say. And the whole idea here is that if a stock still has a good relative strength, even if it didn't beat earnings estimates, if it still is showing good relative strength, obviously Wall Street still likes the company. We want to be aware of those companies. Then we've got raised guidance chart list. And I'm not going to go through all of our chart lists because we could spend hours going through everything that we do. But the raised guidance chart list are companies that have come out and raised guidance either during the quarter or when they report their earnings. And so here you can see there's 336 companies on this list that have raised their guidance. Now, again, you need to be liquid and you need to have a decent looking chart. I'm not quite as picky here, but if a company's going straight down, even though they've raised guidance, Wall Street obviously doesn't care. And that means I'm not going to care either. And then we have a short squeeze chart list. And on our short squeeze chart list are any of the companies that have short percentage of float above 20%. And you can see I have these listed in order by their percentage, short percentage of float. And so GameStop obviously has been big talk in 2021. And that one continues still to have a pretty strong short interest, although it's not nearly as high as it was previously. Another chart list that I have, and I'm actually going to bring this up and show you some of the charts on here, but I do a relative strength sectors and relative strength industry group. And the relative strength sectors it's just a chart showing you how each one of these sectors is performing relative to the S&P 500. Now, if we do this in summary form, it'll tell you on an intraday basis what outperformed the S&P 500 the most on a particular day and which was the worst. That can be pretty useful to know what area of the market is outperforming the S&P and which ones are lagging. And you can do it over different time frames. So I can go back and say, okay, over the last week, this particular week, financials and industrials are leading. Consumer discretionary, real estate, even technology are underperforming over the last week. So it just gives you a quick little update as to what's working, what's not. So let's consider financials for a minute. Now, if I go into the next chart list I show you, relative strength industries, I can now sort this by number because I have all technology industry groups starting with 001. 001 XLK, and then 001 to 007. And then for consumer discretionary XLY, they all start 002. And they go from 001 industry group all the way up to 0020. So you can see there's 20 groups there. And then we go into communication services and so forth. Well, down here, I can see financials. This is 005. Now, I just saw financials are outperforming the S&P 500 by the most over the last week. So I can come into the industry group relative strength chart list, and I can see which of the financials is doing the best. And if I scroll down, I'll see full line insurance right here, the DJUSIF. That is outperforming by almost 5% over this particular week. So I could pull that up and just take a look and see what's going on here. And on a relative basis, what you see is we bottomed in September, and this is a group relative to the S&P. Now, this isn't telling us that the full line insurance index bottomed here. That's just telling us that relative strength bottomed. If we want to see when the absolute bottom was, we'd have to go all the way to March of last year. So what this is telling us is that the absolute chart was improving all the way through September, but the relative strength was not. So it was going up, but it wasn't going up as fast as the S&P 500. And that's why we were putting in new relative lows. But look at what's happened since September. Full line insurance has been a strong area and is seeing a lot of outperformance versus the S&P 500. And I think this is really important because if you're going to try to beat the S&P 500, if that's your goal, and that's always my goal, then I need to know what areas are outperforming so I can look for stocks, leading stocks in those areas to look for. So let's move on to a scan, and let me show you how you can put some of what we do together. So financials, we just said, very strong, right? So let's take a look at, let's go into the scanning. So if you scroll down on your dashboard and you don't see your scans, whoops, then you need to go to this gear shift right here and click on this and make sure that you have scans and alerts checked off. If you don't, then it's not going to show up. Okay, so make sure these are checked, whatever you want to see. But I've got mine checked, so my scans are down here. Now I'm going to show you a new scan. I'm just going to show you an easy way to scan a few things. We'll do this now for the next 10 minutes or so to wrap up the show. So let's say, all right, I know financials have been strong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here under sectors and industries, and I'm just going to grab the entire financial sector and add it. So now one of my filters here is the group is the financial sector. Now, if I just run a scan, I'm going to get every financial stock that's included in the financial sector. Obviously, I don't want that. I want to see which financials are in those chart lists that I told you about earlier. So once you're a member at EarningsBeats, you can take our chart list and you can download them right into your account. Now I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to see if I can get that chart list page up. There we go. So for instance, the strong earnings chart list, here are the two chart lists. When you come in, what you would end up doing is grabbing this password, copying it, and then when you click on this, now it's not going to ask me for a password because I've already downloaded this. But the first time you go to download, it's going to ask you for that password. All you do is paste it, hit OK or whatever, and then it brings you to this page. And then you just go in and say, I want to save my chart list. Now I've already saved it, so I don't have to, but you can just go in and say it's a new list. And if you don't change anything, it's just going to be the same name that I have on my shared chart list. And that's how it'll be posted to your account. But you could change the name and you could just say, my SCCL, my strong earnings chart list, and put the date on there if you want, whatever. However you want to save it. Or if you've already saved one of our strong earnings chart lists, you can go in and hit the replace list. So if you go in here, it'll bring up all of your chart lists and you can go find the chart list that you want to replace. Just be careful though, because once you replace it, that old list is gone. The only thing you're going to have on that list is what is reflected on this shared chart list that you're downloading. All right. So that's what I wanted to show you on the chart list page, is that this is where you get all the chart list. We actually do all the work, give you the link, give you the password. You can download it right into your account. All right. Now, once you have that, then what we have over here is now we're going to start putting these, we're going to start adding these chart lists. So let's add strong earnings chart list 1 and 2. Let's add strong future earnings chart list. And let's add raised guidance. Okay. Now, when we do this, well, I'm going to check syntax, always check syntax. Okay. Everything's good. Now I'm going to run the scan. It's going to come up with 0. And you're like, okay, why are there no financial stocks there? Well, you got to think about what you're writing here. You're saying if it's in the financial sector and it's in every one of these chart lists, it has to be in all of them. We're saying and. We're not saying or, we're saying and. So it's got to be in every one of these chart lists. Well, I told you earlier that when I do the strong future earnings chart list, anything that's the same between strong future and strong earnings, I take out of the strong earnings chart list. There should never be any stocks that are in the strong earnings and the strong future earnings. So it's always going to come up 0. So what we really want to do is we want to look at this and say, it needs to be in the financial sector, and put another bracket in here and then another bracket over here, so that these 4 chart lists are now being looked at together as a group. And what we want to do is get rid of the and put or. So by doing this, now I can check syntax. By doing this, what the scan engine now is looking at is, okay, I want financial sector and this chart list or this chart list or this chart list or this chart list. So now it's going to look in all the 4 chart lists individually. And if it sees it in any of them, then it's going to include it. Okay, so this should give us a lot of financial stocks. All right, so let's go ahead and run this scan. And the scan results 116. So if we really like the financial groups, the financial sector is taken off. So we really think, financials look great. Then we can come in and run these scans like I just did. And here are the 116 stocks that we've already done the research on that are in one of those chart lists. Maybe multiple chart lists, but they have to be in at least one of them. Now you can then sort this by scooter. So you can start with some of the best stocks, or you could do industry group. And so they're all financial. So I'm not going to do it, rank it by sector or sort it by sector. But then you can go down and look and see if there's any particular area that you wanted to look at. Now, none of these, there were no full line insurance companies on here. But some other areas that have been looking pretty good. I mean, life insurance has been picking up. Banks have certainly been picking up at this particular moment in time. So then you could just pull up a chart like Lincoln National, which is one of the life insurance companies. And here it is, it's going up. Now you might say to yourself, well, which chart list was it in? Another cool feature of StockCharts is if you go up here to the drop-down menu and put in symbol summary, and then go type in LNC, when you go down, it'll tell you which chart lists. So of the chart list that we ran, strong future earnings. So this tells me that they probably missed revenues or earnings estimate, but because that stock has a scooter rank of 87 or whatever it was, it's on our strong future earnings chart list. So that's where this one came from. So if you ever want to know, and you'll see if it's in multiple chart lists. So, I mean, these features are so cool. Now let's do another scan. And let's do this scan and say, you know, we have the raised guidance, we have strong earnings. So let's see which stocks are on both the strong earnings and the raised guidance. So which ones beat and also raised guidance? So the way you can do this now, this is going to look for, again, everything that's in all three of these. Well, strong earnings 1 and 2 are not, you know, it should be an or clause for that. So I'm going to change this. And so these two chart lists, I'm going to say are or. So it can be in either of the strong earnings chart lists and it's in raised guidance. Okay. So it's really important to get the ors and the ands correct. And if you're going to use ors, make sure you use that second bracket on both sides of the grouping that you're saying or. Okay. But let's check syntax. Good to go. And let's run the scan. So now we're looking to see how many of these stocks that reported strong earnings also raised their guidance. 150 of them. And if you do the scooter, you can start with the highest scooters. Or you can break it down by sector. And now that you've ranked it by scooter, you can go through all the communication services and see which, you know, high scooter ranks. And maybe raised guidance doesn't even matter to you, but it does to me. So, you know, this is a way to take a look at stocks and, you know, maybe there's something on here, maybe media agencies is the area that you're looking for. And so you look at, you know, the stock raised guidance. Well, you know, it's pulled back recently. Maybe it's a trade. Maybe you're interested in it. Maybe you're not. But again, that's how quick you can identify and find the work that we do. Now, last thing I'll do real quick here is I'm going to grab one of our custom scans. And I'm going to do, how about the high volume scan? And we'll run this against the strong or the short squeeze. So I'm going to copy that. Show you how quick we can do this. Paste. Now I want, that's usually intraday, 40% of normal volume. I wanted, let's say 2 times normal volume, 90-day normal volume. And then just go down here and grab short squeeze chart list, add that, come up here, check syntax, and it's good, run the scan. See if any short squeeze stocks return, there's 4 of them on our short squeeze list, 4 out of the 40 traded at least 200% normal volume today. And that's important because high volume is something that you look for with short squeeze. Anyway, I hope you really enjoyed this presentation. This was a special presentation of Trading Places Live. Just wanted to show you our platform, how we use StockCharts. I think the combination is powerful. Check us out. Go over to EarningsBeats.com and at our homepage, click on that Join Today. Try our service for 30 days. Try the StockCharts platform for 30 days. And let's see if it makes a difference in your trading going forward. Everybody have a great day. Really appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in. Happy trading.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.